Affirmative action, welfare, all sorts
So
of
wait,
things that
welfare,
eventually
so-
ruin our culture and places where we are now.
Well, I
Talking
just
about-
want to make sure we're clear. Giving them money hurt them, right?
Well, yes,
What?
giving them, because if your father's out of the home, that's when we give you the money. Free.
Well, then
that's
give
how
them
you
the
get
money
more of
while the
money.
dad's in the
If you-
home.
if you-
then,
if-
because they can't-
What? Oh my goodness. He might be racist. Oh my goodness.
So if you take pride in having like a white savior complex, what is it that you think that you're doing to save black people?
That's my policy. If they disagree with me, they're racist. You can't speak over Candace Owens, even if she's literally a Nazi kind of thing. So I kind of leveled out, thankfully, and I'm less cringe now.
Did you? Are you?
I cringed.
Welcome back to Rattlesnake TV, guys. Today I've got an absolute
This video is going to be good, man. Check out Rattlesnake TV. He's one of my favorite channels on YouTube, man. Check him out. I like to watch his videos over any other because he just that guy, bro. Don't cap. Let's get it.
We've got a new Jubilee video between black conservatives and white liberals. This is an absolutely stacked panel, and I will introduce them as we go. But this is also a great example of white liberals being absolutely put in their place by black conservatives, and it culminates in one of the most
Yep,
awkward
that's
and cringe
crazy.
moments I've ever seen. You're gonna love it. Let's get into it.
White Americans have way more advantages than Black Americans.
I think I'm a rarity here.
It would seem so.
Do white Americans have more advantages because they're white, or do just white Americans have advantages because of historic factors? I think that people want to argue at the end of the day over whether it's because you're white or not. I think that the answer is because you're white in the past, and that's how it kind of carries over to today. You know, even in times of the United States history where black people tried to build wealth, you know, with the Tulsa riots and everything, where this wealth has been destroyed. And something that's upsetting to me is when conservatives talk about how we can't blame the past for what's happening in the present. That is true to some extent, but then the next breath they'll talk about how important it is to have dual parent households, how important it is to have a strong family, to have responsibility passed on from parent to child. And we've seen in the past that because of racial issues, that process has been severely disrupted.
The funny thing is that agreeing with all these things is when I did my research when I was younger, which arrived me to my standpoint of being a conservative, because I believed it was racist, Democrat, liberal ideologies and policies dating all the way back to the 1800s, all the way up to the 1960s, and then the purported big switch. But I think it was more so when Democrats decided to be a bit more cloak and dagger about their true opinions of black people and be more secretive and more, oh, we want to help you by, you know, doing these things and seeing them as
Doing
inferior.
what things?
Affirmative action, welfare, all sorts
So
of
wait,
things that
welfare,
eventually
so-
ruin our culture and places where we are now.
So
but I want to get back to the history of it, because we're talking
Well, I just
about,
want to make sure we're clear. Giving them money hurt them, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes,
What?
giving them, because if your father's out of the home, that's when we give you the money. If you're living in
Yeah,
this
so
housing,
then give them
if
the
you're
money
living
while
in
the
this
dad's
housing
in.
rent-free,
Well, then
that's
give
how
them
you
the
get
money
more of
while the
money.
dad's in the
If you-
home.
if you-
then.
if-
Jesus. Oh my goodness. Alec. He came on and said, so giving them money hurt them. And the young man, Chandler, he looks about 18. He probably just entering college or fresh out of high school. Said you can't get money if you have a dual parent household. He said, well, just give them the money anyways. That's not how it works, and you obviously don't understand how it works. But the reason I paused this is because let's talk about the question. White Americans have way more advantages than black Americans. And what were their reasonings? Well, it stems back to the history of things. Or, so giving them money hurts them? How? These are the advantages, but let me talk about it. This whole question in itself is kind of wrong, because if you look at the biggest issues affecting African Americans today in America, they have nothing to do with white people. So when I hear the question, they have way more advantages, I mean, you can argue that past things can cause an advantage, but my thing is, the things that are our biggest disadvantages have nothing to do with any other races. The lack of father figures, they have nothing to do with any other race. The lack of education, nothing to do with any other race. We can all go to college. That has nothing to do with any other race. The use of our culture being exploded by, wrong word, but our culture being exploited by others, we're letting it be exploited. We're getting into it. We're being ignorant online. That has nothing to do with anyone else. That's our decisions. These are our decisions. So that's why when I read this question, I'm like, what do you mean? We are making those decisions. But I may be wrong. If you disagree, please let me know in the comments. I will read it.
Working
So
this
give
amount of
them the-
hours and getting less than this amount of
You're
dollars,
throwing-
you're getting money
you're
from the
throwing
government.
the
Yes,
baby-
it is incentivizing.
you're throwing the baby out with the
it is-
bathwater.
I don't even know what that means in this scenario because yes.
You're
okay, you
throwing
want to talk
out-
about throwing babies
Okay,
out
let
with
me
the
break this
bathwater?
down for
Margaret
you.
Sanger wanted to exterminate the black race because she thought they were weeds. So yeah, we can literally talk about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That's what
Okay.
Margaret Sanger, that's what Democrat policies wanted to do to my people. So that's
Let's-
why I feel so strongly about it because it is these policies that date back centuries that were built off of the death and poverty of my people.
Let's take a breath. So,
I'm breathing.
okay.
So a lot of babies aren't, but I
Alright.
am,
Okay.
sadly.
I don't know
Oh,
what that means.
Okay, let's just stop there for 1 second. My man is an absolute gangster. That was one of the best one-liners I've ever heard. And I did some research into him after watching this video. And my man is 18. Real C Crump on Twitter. Go and check him out. Love it all. Love the I'm a Vax Rebel hoodie as well. But then
don't
we
know what that
have our
means.
boy Alec over here. Now, Alec is the quintessential white liberal soy boy Twitter troll. And I'm going to do more of a deep dive character analysis soon. I'm going to go full Sigmund Rattlesnake. But for now, let's watch the rest of this exchange.
When I say throw the baby out with the bathwater, you want to completely get rid of welfare, okay? Or at least I don't want to put that on you, you haven't said that, but the conservative apparatus does, clearly. So giving money to a group of people does not hurt them.
I mean,
It
sure, if
can't.
you're talking about a lottery,
It
you just
literally
take
can't.
money. But
Yes.
there are strings
Take money.
attached to that money.
Take all the
there
money.
are strings attached
Give
to
them
that
millions. Make them all millionaires. I don't care. Giving money to
What?
black people does not hurt them.
money. And that has
thinking-
not happened, though.
what is you even talking about? See, this whole discussion is extremely frustrating because Alec brought up welfare and its effect on the black community. However, what even makes you bring up welfare? What does this even have to do with the question? The question is, and y'all see it, white Americans have way more advantages, emphasis on the word way, than black Americans. Welfare is an American thing. It's not just a black thing. There are white people on welfare in America. So what made you think in your head, black advantages? White advantages. Black people have to be on welfare. They need welfare. They need it. No, they don't. There are other races on welfare. If you didn't know, Alec, this is not like a black issue where like you go to a black area, you go to the hood, and you see people on welfare. No, there are other races on welfare, man. I promise you.
That has not happened.
What do you mean?
That has not happened.
No.
It hasn't been a
You're
reparations.
saying
It hasn't been this
so
or that.
what I-
It has
you're
been a
saying
welfare program,
welfare
Great
was
Societies
designed.
Act, that
Welfare
was built
was-
off of the idea of, hey, we get these families split up, we get these
So
people
then let
living
them
here.
keep the family together and keep all the money.
I mean,
There you go.
I guess
Boom,
so,
done.
but I guarantee you,
What?
I
There's
guess so.
no way that
Why
would
would
happen.
you not advocate for that?
Guys, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit that like
Oh
button
my
and also
goodness.
subscribe to the channel. But don't subscribe now. I want you guys to subscribe at the end. When you get to that moment when you're like,
Yeah,
That was
subscribe.
a good video.
Subscribe to the channel.
Go. Hit that red button. Back to the clips.
So personally, I feel like there's really only one thing that white people have a true advantage over black people with, and it's that white people are less likely to be forced into a box. It happens with black people onto other black people, but it especially happens with white liberals onto black conservatives, where we are told that we are supposed to think a certain way, be a certain way, and if we're not, then we're called all these names like etc. And the worst of all is bootlicker, because I hate when a white liberal tells me as a black man that I'm a bootlicker, because then I ask, whose boot am I licking? Because you're telling me as a white person that me as a black person that I'm licking your boot because I don't think in this box that you want me to frame my mentality in. That to me is real racism, and that's what we need to stop allowing to happen to us, because black people are so quick now to not branch out and to have new ways of thinking, or to go into careers like agriculture and these other career paths that black people don't typically get into. It's not because of racism stopping them from getting in there. It's because we're told for so long that you have to follow this path and you have to think a certain way.
I think America
Okay.
is a great place for a black person. I think I'm an American. Anything that's available to you is available to me and mine.
I say this. I don't think we're told that you have to do that. I don't think that's true, because nobody's out here saying you have to do this. If anything, I believe that there's advocates out there pushing, at least in the communities that I grew up in, there are advocates out there pushing people to do things that are out of the normal. Like, for example, I'm studying engineering. It's really not that many black engineers, but I went to a STEM school. So I was never told, oh, you don't gotta do that. However, there are things that, although you're not told directly going to, it's kind of expected for you to be in. For example, if you're a young black boy, it's expected that you play at least one of these, football or basketball. It's expected. Period. I'm not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing. It's just what it is. It's expected that you have a favorite rapper. It's just expected that your favorite pair of shoes is a pair of Jordans or a pair of Yeezys. And my favorite pair of shoes are a pair of Jordans or a pair of Yeezys. I'm not gonna lie to you. But these things are expected, and if you don't fit into those molds, nobody's gonna tell you directly, oh, you're less black or you don't fit the culture. But that's what it is. Like that is what it is. So when you have someone who doesn't fit into that mold, it probably does come off as you're not being embraced by the culture. And I do see why he would see it as an advantage of other races. I don't know. I'm not going to speak on other races too much, but I do see where he's coming from. I don't fully agree, but I understand.
So I thought this guy looked familiar, and doing my research, his name is Xavier DeRusso, and he works at PragerU, and he is an ice-cold killer, as you're about to see throughout this debate. And then this lady's name is Renee, but we're going to refer to her throughout this debate as Mum, because she's just got it. She's got that motherly quality that makes you feel warm and fuzzy. She's like a hot pumpkin soup on a cold winter's night. And last person I'll introduce from the conservative side is Aaliyah, who used to be a BLM activist turned conservative.
Wow.
So good for her. Anyways, just to round off before the next clip, Jubilee have done such a good job of picking the panel here, because they've got, like I said, the Twitter troll, and then they've got the guy best friend, the one who takes her for sushi on her lunch break and listens to how much of a jerk the guy she's seeing is. The guy who probably also carries a tote bag, which is scientifically proven that if you wear a tote bag for too long, you will start growing breasts and enjoying Mean Girls.
That is
What?
so fetch.
He's the guy who is really soft-spoken and harmless, but at the same time, he has twisted and dark fantasies about what he wants to happen to conservatives. Which,
Bro, Rattlesnake TV be going off. Y'all see why I watch his channel. He's quite entertaining. Make sure y'all subscribe to him as well.
see in this video. And then you've got Destiny, the really well-known liberal streamer, and then the white liberal girl, the one who's been to college and her professors had an absolute field day in indoctrinating her. And now she just says the
goodness.
current thing because she's so impressionable. So with everyone introduced, let's have a look at the next bit about affirmative action.
Affirmative action accomplished its purpose. Why do we still see the disparities that we do in the professional workplace?
This is an interesting conversation because I'm in college right now, so let's see what they say.
Average white wealth and compare it to black wealth totals. White people as a whole have about 50 times greater wealth than black people as a whole per capita. So I just don't understand why you think
What does that mean?
affirmative action has accomplished its purpose.
I hate when people use statistics like that. I hate it. I hate it, bruh. Because if y'all don't know, y'all probably do know, y'all are pretty smart, that you can literally use statistics to say anything you want. Like, it don't matter what point you want to prove. It's a statistic out there that supports you. So when you say on average, white people have 50 times the amount of wealth. Okay. For one, is more white people in the country. For two, this doesn't accompany anything else. It doesn't accompany who goes to school the most. It doesn't accompany I guess who works harder, who has more two-parent households. It doesn't accompany anything. It doesn't accompany your culture. It doesn't accompany nothing. It only shows you a statistic. You can't just use blind statistics like that to support your argument. You have to have some context. Just have some context. I'm not even saying if I agree or disagree with it. Just have some context, man. Hey, y'all, make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe.
Curious, why do you assume that just because there is a disparity means it's because of a racial issue?
What else would it be from?
I mean,
Upbringing,
That's what I'm saying.
Economic abilities,
Desire to
skills.
go, desire to.
So
zip
it
code
was their
does
fault.
play a lot. If you grow up in a neighborhood that experiences a lot of trauma, you're not as likely to do as well in school, which means you're.
Why did they grow up in a neighborhood that experiences a lot of
What?
trauma?
I mean, lots of people do.
Yes,
live in
but
a-
why specifically do more black people?
Government assistance programs.
Government assistance programs, like what?
Try redlining.
I mean, you can go into that if you'd like to, but let's
It
take a
is
look
relevant.
at the Great Societies Act, which was created to kick black fathers out of the home and get black mothers on welfare assistance. These things aren't beneficial for economics. These things aren't beneficial for actually paving a way for success for black children and black families. I mean, reducing a two-family household to a one-family household
I'm gonna let him speak, because young man going in. I'm gonna let him speak. I'm not gonna say nothing.
isn't going to make them the richest man in the world. It isn't even going to get them out of high school. Nonetheless,
You mean
the ability to
parent.
even get to college.
You mean
Yeah,
two-parent?
the child, yes, but a two-parent household
Yeah.
in comparison to a one-parent household, that child is not going to be nearly as successful. That child is more disposed to being sent into prison by doing crimes or not doing very well in school. So how are they even supposed to get that, that wealth disparity shrunk if they aren't even able to get out of the community that is causing these problems for them?
Something I think that this conversation illustrates is that affirmative action is literally the very end of the line of a lot of different parts of a person's life. And by that point, trying to rectify all of the inequities that have existed, to try to remedy any of that at the very end with affirmative action, it might just be too broad a brush. And maybe we'd be better served focusing on the earlier issues than trying to throw a kid who maybe can barely read at a 6th grade level into a college to hope that that's the thing that fixes the problem at the end of the line.
I don't think that affirmative action was perfect by any measure, but we still see really, really bad inequality. So if you're going to get rid of affirmative action, what's the replacement?
Meritocracy.
There's no meritocracy in
Yes,
this
it
country. You look at Elon Musk, he's destroying Twitter. There's no meritocracy. That's ridiculous.
Well, first thing I want to bounce back to is it's not a myth that there are minorities that are being put into colleges that they're not ready for. If you look at a lot of these top universities, including Harvard, Yale, etc., you're going to see a lot of minorities on academic probation because they are being placed in universities that they are not ready for. They are not cut out for that just yet. And it even just makes sense if you look at how much they have to achieve in order to get there. Asian students on average have to score 450 points higher than a black student in order to get in the same university. So if you think of the university...
And this statistic is something that's not taken out of context, unlike the other one where he said, well, white people just earn 50% on average or whatever he said, more money. Because this statistic actually ties directly in. What other context is there? It says a student who self-identifies an Asian will need 140 SAT points higher than whites, SAT points higher than Hispanics, and 450 higher than African Americans. The reason that this ties directly into when you're talking about something like affirmative action is because affirmative action, although it can be extremely useful, don't get me wrong, if you're putting someone in a position to where they cannot achieve something or they cannot pass successfully, you are failing them. For example, you're allowing someone in a school when they have lower scores. The reason that schools have specific scores is because, for one, they move at a faster pace of education. Not necessarily meaning their work is harder, but they teach much faster. They expect you to already be on a proficient level to understand it. This is why they have scores. You need a specific GPA. You need to have specific background in this field, So when you say, no, we're going to lower this standard and let you in anyways, you're literally setting them up for failure. And I know you don't want to look at it like that, but you're setting them up for failure. And when you talk about having equality in these decisions, there's no equality when it comes to this. Let's keep it a buck. If you want to achieve something in life, there's no equality. There's people who work harder, who work smarter. So when you have an equality of outcome that you want, it doesn't exist. It will never exist. So stop trying to look for it and have it. There's equality of opportunity, but there's no equality of outcome.
That have courses, etc., that grade on a curve, you can only have so many people with an A, so many people with a B, etc. So that means that the bottom percentile is going to fail. Who is most likely, just based on logic, going to be the ones failing? It's going to be the people who didn't have the credentials to get there in the first place. And then I have to bounce back to...
I want to get you on that point, because I would posit that the people who are least likely to have good outcomes in an academic setting are those who have to work 2 jobs, are those who have to drive there from home because they can't afford a dorm, are those who have to go into crippling financial debt.
Oh, nah.
And have other stresses in their life. They can't afford a doctor, they can't afford a dentist, they can't afford anything.
I had to do
so
that too, though.
Those are the
That's
people.
not just black people, it's not just...
But it's overwhelmingly...
What? Oh my goodness. He might be racist. That was an extremely racist statement. That was extremely racist. Nah, that was so racist. He just equated being in poverty to being black. He said those who work 2 jobs, those who couldn't afford this, couldn't afford that. That was racist, because there are people who are black who didn't have to work 2 jobs. I'm literally one of them. Like, I am literally in college right now, and I never had to work 2 jobs. There are white people out there who's probably watching this video who cannot relate to that statement. I didn't have to pay for college. My parents did. I didn't have to work 2 jobs, ever. Honestly, I didn't have to work 1 job. There are white people out there who don't agree with that. So when you're sitting here equating being growing up in poverty, not having money, not having opportunity to just being black. Oh, that's racist, man. That's beyond racist, actually.
There are more white people in poverty than black people.
If you look at the raw numbers, but if you
I don't know,
actually
what are the
understand
wrong
what you're talking
numbers?
about.
No
The
number
issue
is
is poverty
wrong.
in general, though. I don't think it's like who's in poverty. It's like poverty sucks. It
Maybe we
shouldn't
should make
matter
college
who's in it.
free, and maybe we want to have
What?
affirmative action wouldn't be that necessary.
Make college free. Nothing in life is free. Somebody's gonna pay for it, because those professors who's busting their butt, you cutting their salaries in half. Those lunch ladies, you cutting their salaries in half. Don't make college free. You can lower the prices, but free? Nothing in life is free.
Ghetto.
Yeah, dude, let's just make college free. That way you could stay there forever and you'd never have to grow up and everyone could just pay for you the whole time. And you could sit around for as long as you wanted with your girlfriends talking about Roe v. Wade and talking about overthrowing the patriarchy in the hope that one day you might get your pee-pee touched.
She gave one pee-pee touch. Okay.
But my favorite moment there was when Alec said, what else would it be, when talking about the reason for disparities. Guys, if you weren't convinced that people are being indoctrinated into a skin-deep ideology, one where any disparity that exists has to be because of racism, and they see racism absolutely everywhere and in everything, this video should be the final proof that you need. This guy is so indoctrinated that he actually can't see anything but racism. And this is exactly what individuals like Candace Owens and Thomas Sowell bring to light. In fact, Thomas Sowell's book Discrimination and Disparities absolutely eviscerates this exact argument. And this guy should go and read that, because that way he might be able to untangle some of the woke neural pathways that have developed in his brain. But on a deeper level, he's spouting a cultural Marxist worldview without even knowing it. Everything you see is a battleground between oppressor and oppressed, whether that be racial groups or anything else. The only way to see people is as a part of a group, rather than individuals with immeasurable amounts of characteristics and idiosyncrasies that make them who they are. But absolutely based there by our friends Chandler and Xavier, who actually form a great partnership throughout this video. And also, a great point by Destiny as well, that you can't just address things at the very top, you have to look at the root of the problems. Now on to the next part, where there is a serious zinger delivered.
I think that President Trump supports all lives. I think that he looks at all American citizens as equal. I don't see him doing anything that would make you feel like he does not support Black lives. That's of course going to lead into the conversation of Black Lives Matter, which was a movement and an organization with so much corruption. Donald Trump not supporting that organization doesn't mean that he doesn't support Black lives. It just means that he doesn't support the fraudulent organization that's stealing so much money from so many people to do absolutely nothing with it, nor does he support a destructive movement that is destroying cities, communities, lives, etc. So I don't see why someone would think that President Trump doesn't support Black lives.
I've heard him say he knows all the best black people. He has all the best black friends. I do support black people all the time. So sorry, that was a very bad impression, but I don't think Donald Trump wants bad things to happen to black people. So in that respect, I think he does support Black lives. But the other side of that is he's not really doing anything. He didn't do anything as president, certainly, to uplift black people.
The economy affects black people.
Yeah, I certainly disagree with that point. One of the biggest things I
What does he do for the
supported
economy?
personally. Well, yeah, we don't. We'll get into that one later.
When I hear this question, I get a little confused. Like, Trump supports Black lives. Does he hate black people or something? Like, that's a real question, because what does this question mean when you support Black lives? We are a life. Like, what does this question mean? I really hope y'all get what I'm trying to say and what I'm not saying. Like, I really hope y'all get it. What does this question mean? Like, do you support black? Yeah, if he's doing something for the United States, that's a support of him.
One of the biggest things he did is he secured permanent funding for HBCUs, one of the largest increases we ever saw for HBCUs, personally done by his administration, among many other things. The First Step Act, which, you know, there's a lot of debate about whether it was really the best thing to do, but that was definitely a kiss of love to the black race. Freeing Alice Johnson for menial drug crimes she committed in the past that had her locked up. She did not get to see her family for years.
Yeah, but that's not like, okay, I did say I agree.
What?
But I agree in the sense that Donald Trump doesn't literally want bad things to happen to black people, like I think a lot of conservatives do. So I think that he just says the most yeah, I do think that. I think he says the things that will get him elected.
What?
So I don't think that he has any personal grudges against certain, most people.
Nah, this dude is wildin', bro. He just listed a list of things that he did for the black community. He just said, well, he doesn't think that supports us. I'm telling you, as a college student, donating that money, it supports. I promise it supports. And you said a lot of conservatives want bad things for black people. What makes you think that? If we're being honest, the majority of black people in America do not vote conservative. I'm saying the majority. However, the things that are happening to black people in America are under the leadership of another party. I'm not saying I think the Democratic Party has it out to get black people, but you have to be fair in your logic and reasoning. You can't be out here just randomly saying things. What even makes you say that? I really want to know.
Says the most popular thing. So I think like Ron DeSantis would be, Ron DeSantis would be somebody that I think actually wants black people to be hurt. So by that standard, yeah, Donald Trump supports Black lives by leaps and bounds.
You think Donald Trump says the most popular thing?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Then why do so many people hate him?
He got elected as president.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He didn't win the popular vote neither time.
That's a liberal talking point. That's a liberal talking
I'm
point.
helping you here. I'm trying to see the logic in this. Obviously, he says things to be elected as a politician very similarly to how Joe Biden did, except Joe Biden actually has a history of racism.
If he said things that people didn't like, he wouldn't have been our president.
So you like everything that Donald Trump says? You think
Bro, everything he's saying is just really frustrating me, bro. I don't even know what to say.
Says it's popular.
I love a lot of the things he says. I think he's hilarious.
I don't even know what Alec is talking about. I need to end this video. I only got 30 minutes on my clock. I'm already at 26 minutes. Y'all want to see the rest of this video? It is the 15:29 minute mark. I'm directly halfway through the video on Rattlesnake TV. Make sure y'all check him out. Or if y'all want me to do a part 2, let me know. But anyways, it's LFR JoJo, and I'll see y'all in the next one.